Welcome back to the Taste of Sport YouTube channel with myself, JD, back with another different kind of video today where it's a bit early, I guess, but the rumors have already came out about what the Arizona Cardinals are going to do next season with the offseason now of Kyler Murray and his extension last season. But it's kind of, you had Tank for Tua a couple of years ago, and I'm kind of making the case for a crash for Caleb, in brackets Williams, a USC quarterback, former Heisman Trophy winning quarterback from last season, and why maybe with the Arizona Cardinals almost locked in by the sounds of what they're doing and overall situation in the NFL, that they get the number one overall pick, along with the other first round pick they got from the Texans, I'm sure. I'll double check that in a minute. But going to look at a brief history of Kyler Murray's time in Arizona and why it kind of makes sense for them to maybe possibly tank completely, or as I like to say, crash for Caleb Williams from USC. So going to start off with explaining to you pretty much what Caleb Williams has done so far in his brief years in college, last 2 years. Only 1 year as a starter so far, but we'll go with 2022 first. Oh no, let's go 2021 with his, which might be his floor, I guess, which is a pretty good floor for a freshman quarterback who came in for Spencer Rattler that time at Oklahoma. He ended with 1,912 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 64% completion percentage, and only a seven turnover worthy plays as per PFF.com, I guess. And that was just, he had 2.6% turnover play rate, which is obviously not always interceptions, but plays that were turnover where that did end up in a turnover or didn't. 559 yards rushing and 6 rushing touchdowns. He did have 11 fumbles, which was a massive issue. When you see him run with the ball, he is kind of, even similar to the way Kyler Murray does, the ball is very far out in his hand. It's not tucked in as running back would do. But 22 forced missed tackles showed his elusiveness that season, which is a massive thing for him, is why even this class with him and Drake May as the top 2 quarterbacks going into this season in college football, who look like the top 2 quarterbacks going into the draft. Caleb Williams definitely will. Drake May more than likely will end up declaring, depending on how UNC season go, with him losing a lot of weapons compared to Caleb. Now, his Heisman season, which was last season, again, still Caleb Williams, 4,500 yards passing, 42 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, 66.5% completion percentage, 11 turnover-worthy plays. Obviously, he's a starter, but still, it's more turnover-worthy plays than his freshman season, but that's because he took more attempts. That ended up being only 1.8% turnover-worthy plays. 624 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns, 6 fumbles, pretty much half the fumbles, and 36 forced missed tackles. He is 6'1", 215 pounds, and the biggest thing, I guess, with Caleb is, one, he probably is a better arm. I guess arm talent is what they say, which I think I've gone over before in this channel, of where it's not more so always a strength of what you can do. It's the fact that the throws he can make when he's off platform, his feet aren't set, where he might be going to the right hand side and completely throw the opposite side of the field, where many quarterbacks can't make those throws. He can, more so than just like a Baker Mayfield, who had just had has a rocket of arm, but can't necessarily make the kind of throws that Caleb Williams could. And obviously it's the plays he makes out of structure. Like, sometimes it does seem like Caleb, I won't do a deep dive into Caleb Williams. You know, if you watch football, if you know college football, you know what Caleb Williams is. Caleb Williams came in as a 4-star, maybe 5-star recruit, I can't actually remember. But like, that's what he is. His pedigree is what it is. He showed flashes of his first season with Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma, went to USC this year, and now only looks to get prime for another Heisman season this year coming at USC, with the likes of Dorian Singer transferring over from Arizona. But like, Caleb Williams, as of now, is a massive, like, the upgrade for me with Caleb and Kyler is obviously size. And then obviously the rookie contract, which we'll get into how much Kyler signed his rookie year. So the contract Kyler's on, which kind of gets you hard to move, but Kyler's situation is messy. And then moving off that pick, because if they do get the number 1 overall pick, Caleb's not going to fall for number 1. So we're getting to the other guys that they may take. I won't deep dive into these because they have 2 first-round picks. The other one was from Houston, as I said earlier. The guys they could be looking at are the likes of Marvin Harrison Jr., which is the clear number 1 wide receiver in his class. Would have been probably the number 1 wide receiver in last year's class as well, or last year's class, I guess, 2023 class. Incredible, unbelievable wide receiver. He's just the best wide receiver in the country this year, and he's going to be a top 5 pick more than likely. Another guy they could look at, depending on how high they go, is Joe Alt. How bad Texans are, sorry. Joe Alt, and from Notre Dame, the offensive tackle, and Olaf Fashanu, who was the Penn State tackle, who ended up going back to college this season. Those are 2 massive tackles that obviously Arizona have had a very up and down up and down scale of talent, I guess, when it comes to the offensive line they've had with Kyler there, which is something I think you're more likely that they're going to go for. Then again, with the kind of quarterback that a Kyler, even if he still is there, or a Caleb Williams, is guys who thrive out of structure. It may be worth going for like Marvin Harrison if they do get a top 5 pick over a tackle. But like the guys like Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu are massive talents at the offensive tackle, and they probably would have been the best 2 tackles in this year's class. Fashanu was until he returned to college. So looking now at the brief history of what Kyler Murray's history has been so far with Arizona Cardinals, because also he was a first overall pick, he was a Heisman winner. Like this, it's a weird situation that's happened there, but like in Kyler's, he's been there since 2019, so he's going to his 5th year this year. I looked at points per game for the offense. He in his rookie season 16th, not too bad, not too great, kind of middle of the pack. 2020 they're 14th, got a little bit better. 2021 they're 10th. I think that might have been the first year, maybe the second year that. No, that was first. 2020 was the first year. 2021 was the second year that DeAndre Hopkins got there. So that makes sense. Dropped up to a 10th point in points per game, and then last season obviously horrendous with Kyler's injury and stuff, and all the stuff that went on there last year with D-Hop's suspension as well. 21st in offense last year. The sacks per game for the offense, as I was talking about, with the offensive line in Kyler's time there, has been the bottom half of the league all of but 1 year. He's only had 1 winning season since he was there. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, 20 plus touchdowns in 3 straight years. He was injured last year. So it's a weird thing where Kyler, I think, has the talent, and I've always believed him, always really liked him, because obviously he's such a unique runner. Probably the closest thing to a Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson is obviously just physically so much more imposing than a Kyler is. So it's like, that's my big thing with Kyler. It's a strange situation where it's kind of like his disconnect with the front office, which now has changed. Obviously, they have a new head coach in Jonathan Gannon, who was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles. That might change everything. It'll be pretty much decided on whether, but again, we do see coaches, when they get new head coaches, they want their quarterback, they want their team. So it's very possible that it may be more than likely that Jonathan Gannon moves on from Kyler Murray. But when you look then at what his best receivers have been, also the best receivers he has had since being there was DeAndre Hopkins for 2022. But then in 2022, obviously Hopkins missed a lot of time because of his suspension. Larry Fitz at the tail end of his career. I have in question marks Christian Kirk, who has now flourished since he went to last season when he went to his new contract with the Jags. And they got in Hollywood Brown, who Marquise Brown is good, but he's not a pure number 1, which we saw in Baltimore as well. So that's not exactly, he's not been blessed with talent as compared to other quarterbacks have had, which is a massive problem for, and hard way it does stint him. You had David Johnson, I think David Johnson might have had that year where he's just incredible when he was there. Moving to what the projected this year, well, it's good what their defense has been, because obviously it's not just an offense that wins games, it's also defense. Their defense in 2019, his rookie year, was 28th in points per game allowed, 12th in 2020, which was a massive jump up. 2021, they're 16th, and last year they were 31st. Bringing a guy like Jonathan Gannon will help that, but the team is what the team is. They haven't massively upgraded the defense at all. Off the top of my head, Isaiah Simmons, I guess, is a guy in there. It's the JJ Watt has gone. The Chandler Jones is gone went last year, year before, even last year I think, went to the Raiders. Like, they've lost so much. Kingsbury is fired now, which seems to be a massive disconnect between him and Kyler as well. Look, so far Kyler has only had 1 playoff game, and they lost in the 4 years he's been there. They are projected on most betting things to have over under 5.5 wins. So obviously that's probably going to be the bottom of the division. Like, and if you look at the weapons that he's got this year, which is another reason why I think getting a Marvin Harrison in, if they do have an early pick in next year's draft with a Caleb Williams, I think it's worth getting a weapon for him like a Marvin Harrison, where it doesn't really, Marvin Harrison Jr., no respect to his father. But like, looking at the weapons now, they Marquise Brown, who is up and down, undersized receiver, not going to be your X receiver. Rondale Moore, who they just haven't known what to do with him. I really liked him in college. They just didn't know what to do with him. Zach Ertz on the tail end of his career as well. Zach Pascal, he's just kind of a speeder. You don't know what you're going to do with him. James Conner, who has looked good since getting there last season, but looking at the weapons they have, it's not exactly somewhere for a quarterback to flourish. And why it's almost too early to move on from Kyler next year. Because again, his contract, he signed a 5-year, $230 million contract. I think that was only last year or the year before they signed that with him. So there's still a lot of money left in the books for Kyler for them to pay him. So like, you have to convince another team to take on that money, or you take on a lot of the brunt of that, and that's hard to digest when you know how good Kyler is. I personally am a big believer in Kyler, but next year does seem like the year where Caleb is such a high talent that you're kind of in this paradox where, do you go another year with Kyler? Do you think Jonathan Gannon can make that work? Who's a defensive-minded coach, mind you, so that's not a great start, with very minimal weapons. With DeAndre Hopkins now pretty much, he is out the door. He got cut. He's hopefully the Patriots. But anyway, or do you wait and then you miss out, you keep Kyler and you miss out on Caleb, or do you take Caleb, get rid of Kyler, but like, or do you keep Kyler? It's just such an awful situation. But I think for me, in my head, I think for a new offense, for a new regime, new front office, I think you do crash for Caleb. The team overall is not going to win too many. You're not going to contend this year. So for me, I think it's worth them just trying to get Caleb Williams, trying to get that first overall pick. Hopefully, like the Texans, I actually have a big belief in this year, kind of to be somewhat decent. Not enough to get them a top 5 pick for the Cardinals, who have their first round pick this year. So that's kind of a brief history of what Kyler is. In my opinion, I think Caleb Williams is worth the risk and worth the stress and hassle of trying to get rid of a Kyler and his contract. Because some team will want him again. Like, Kyler is still young. Kyler is still a very good quarterback. He just has to be in the right situation, and it seems to not be working with his Call of Duty stuff and all the stuff that comes out. It just seems like too many things leak in my eyes in Arizona for a guy like Kyler, who just, I think he needs to be just kind of protected in a way. He's a grown man, but protected from the media and sources and stuff. So I think you do crash for Caleb. But I'd be interested to see if they do end up trying to get, if they do tank this year. Like I said, tank for 2, I know you've crashed for Caleb. And that's kind of what you have to make. I just want to put all the facts out there so you make your own decision on whether you think, and let me know, do you think that they should throw away the season to try and get a Caleb Williams, or should they try and, with the new front office in there, new coaching staff and stuff, try and build around Kyler and see what you can get from him? Like, he is signed off for another few years, so you might just be stuck with it. But it's a very interesting thing to watch this year for the Cardinals, and as much as bad they're going to be, it will be interesting to see what they end up doing with moves and stuff they make. So thank you for watching. This is a bit different. Let me know if you know like these kind of different changes where I kind of go to my own thing about it. But yeah, so like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again. Bye bye.